Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. And, I haven't focused on some of the smaller stories out there of the abuse of children in some time, although you really can't say that this is small in any regard. In fact, it's kind of hard to talk about the details of this case and how long that this was taking place, where they're saying it may have even been multi-generational. In other words, the mothers that were bringing their children there, and we're going to get to some of the really grotesque stuff, were actually abused as children, and then later brought their own children to not only an area where children were abused, but where they produced CP. And I'm just going to leave it at that because the details of this are just extremely grotesque, over the top. You wonder how human beings could do this type of thing, why they would do this type of thing. And, the police officer that looked at this, and actually it's the FBI division out in Cincinnati, because this all takes place in Ohio, so this is some of the worst stuff he's seen in almost 30 years. And he's like, look, this is actually happening. And it's not just, elitists, but, this is a large ring that seems to be in operation for a very, very long time. We're going to talk about it. Guys, thumbs the video up, subscribe, and share. Remember, we are fully demonetized on this platform. That's right. We are deemed harmful content and not allowed to make a buck. So $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. We're almost at the end of the month right now. A couple more days. Big donors. Love you. Remember, you can also support me over on Rockfin. Free exclusive LARPing at the ATM. Make sure you go check that out. All the documentary films are free. And like I said, make sure that you are subscribed to the Burmis Brigade. Okay, so this one's a long one. All right, long one. But first of all, let's take a look. So this guy right here, Larry Dean Porter, is the mastermind. And I mean, there's an informant. There's the talk of possible murder in this. But at the end of the day, this guy, I guess his big mistake was arranging something on Facebook where a 7-year-old after midnight would be sold to somebody, basically. I don't want to get into the graphic details because this guy was something else. He would trade drugs to couples for their children, and not only that, he would produce CP of them abusing their own children and use it as blackmail. And apparently he went to great lengths to hide the actual data from people. And by the way, 10 people now have been arrested in this. In other words, he had these on flash drives and SD cards, but he had some of these couples digging holes throughout the property. Apparently they haven't found any bodies, but they did find a jar with an SD card in it, with obviously crazy images. Here are some of the other disgusting people. Like I said, we're going to show you what real monsters look like. These are real monsters. It's hard to think that they're human beings if you read this extensive piece. And I have read it, and I don't know how much that I want to repeat of it, period. And they believe a lot of the evidence actually did get taken care of. And that Porter was able to, make calls and arrange certain things to be destroyed. Okay? And then you get to the women. You get his daughters are involved. Okay? I mean, and then, again, parents of these children. Some real monsters here. You can't imagine. I mean, we're talking 3 to 13. 3 to 13 these kids were. 3 years old. Think about that. And again, I can't use some of the language. I won't use some of the language when it comes to children. Some of the things that this guy was caught in text conversations talking about. Here's another disturbing fact. Whether or not these people have money or whatever, the women, all 3 of them, I believe, were like $100,000 bond. Can we stop? There should be no bond, no bail for any of these people, and they should be going to jail for the rest of their lives. I don't know why that's so hard. I really don't. I don't care if they're drug addicts or not. I don't care if they were abused or not. Quite frankly, these are your children. This is disgusting, disturbing, over the top. Yeah, again, so a trafficking ring out in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, that apparently went on for decades. Now, if you read this quote, I want to read this one specifically, okay? It's not isolated. It's not limited to a particular socioeconomic group or particular geography, he said. But it's everywhere. It's happening in every neighborhood. We desperately need to change that. People still don't believe that this is a real thing. Only raising the awareness of the problem by education, by cooperative action, we will be able to end this scourge of modern day slavery. Okay? I mean, that's a huge thing. And like I said, some of this is the most grotesque thing this man, a different gentleman, the FBI guy, has seen in a generation. All right? In a generation. He says, Chris Hoffman, special agent in charge of the FBI Cincinnati division, said that the alleged criminal activity in these indictments are some of the most disgusting, perverse, and repulsive acts that I have ever heard of in 32 years of law enforcement. All right? So why any of these people, even for a bond, bail, I mean, you know, up to 20 years, you know, anybody who was caught with any of this stuff, whether it was a bare minimum CP or not, needs to be in prison for the rest of their lives. These are children. Okay? You know, if your name is in this, I really don't think you're being set up. Call me kooky. All right? I mean, this is the kind of thing that people can't grasp actually takes place in society because they're so far away from it. They think they see it on, you know, horror movies or every once in a while in the news, and it's nowhere near as bad. Talk about systemic. This is a systemic problem in this country. And if you can't understand that the system has been guarded by those at the top, whether it be in religion, in Hollywood, in elite circles of finance and technology, etc., in government, they've been set up because when they get caught, they get that. Dennis Hastert, ex-Speaker of the House, the longest-serving Republican of the time, okay? That guy, labeled by a judge as a serial child molester, has never done a day in jail for it. Explain to me how that's possible. Never done a day in jail? How about should have been in jail the rest of his life as soon as those revelations were made? Why not? You know, those priests that they moved around again and again and again and again and again and again, that is systemic. That is protective. The fact that Bryan Singer's probably going to get to direct another movie one day and not be in jail. Yeah, that is systemic. But even on these lower rungs, you've got to ask yourself, how did they operate for so long? What's really going on? Why is this guy burying some of this information? Is it blackmail on others other than just the parents? You gotta wonder. So, guys, thumbs the video up, subscribe, and share. I would encourage you to check out the story yourself and read it yourself so you can really grasp. I mean, I touched on some things, but there's just some things I really didn't want to touch on in there. I mean, we're talking some really disgusting, disturbing quotes and behavior. So if you can, support me over on the GoFundMe, $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. Check out Rokfin.com as well. All the documentary films are free. Invisible Empire, A New World Order to Find, and Shade the Motion Picture, especially, as well as Fabled Enemies and Loose Change Final Cut. And subscribe to the Burmist Brigade if you haven't already. I love you guys, and I will see you all on the flip side.